Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So Cryptic Studios just had a stream where they talked about and discussed the updates to the long-awaited return of the Day of the Dungeon Master. And this has come with a lot of disappointment from the player base. For example, Linde there, who is the creator for the Neverwinter Noobs website, a very good place to keep yourself updated, but you can see how she expresses she's hugely disappointed with how the event works now. There's no reason to repeat any of the events for exactly. There is no purpose to go and do any of these mini challenges on a repeated basis like you used to back then, because they offer no rewards whatsoever. And yeah, you can go and you can complete your daily task within 10 minutes. There's nothing repeatable or worth grinding for you to keep coming back. Every day you just log on, you do your one queue with your quest and you're done. You've got your progress, your 1 day of contribution, and ultimately you'll do that each day. And that's fine. But this event used to be a place where you could farm for like Lathander's Dew, for your red vines, and that gave you this event food which was unique again to this event. If you go and look Lathander's Dew in the auction house, you were selling for a stack for like 1 million. And so the main takeaway of this stream, where you have the content designer Ryan Zash and the community manager mainly answering comments from the chat here, the main takeaway was that the community are overly disappointed about this rework of the Day of the Dungeon Master. And yes, for good reason. They gutted the rewards out of it. You run one of those mini dungeons and what you get at the end? Not even a chest. The only rewards now is the token event, which is, yeah, that's okay. They wanted to convert it to a appointment event, but with converting it to an appointment event, they just took out all of the unique rewards linked to this event, and that's taking uniqueness out of it altogether, and thus it just becomes one of those daily chores you do with all these other type of events. It should, in my opinion, have this appointment system, but on top of that, an additional way where you can farm unique items to this event. For example, they've added them to the Wondrous Bazaar. They could have these items as earnable progression rewards. For example, you run a dungeon, there's a chance you'd obtain a specific reward like the legendary beholder tank, and you could have streak breakers with that as well. Let's say you run said mini dungeon 100 times, then you would guaranteed obtain your legendary beholder tank. I think that would be fair, and you could have other rewards for other mini dungeons, and you could have those mini tasks as well. Let's say complete 100 of those different mini tasks and you would obtain, let's say, your Albert figurine and so on. Those simple goals that people can work towards for a certain reward, rather than throwing everything on the same currency like Astral Diamonds and here, go buy it with whatever Astral Diamonds. Astral Diamonds are pretty precious. You use them on the auction house to buy things from other players that you, let's say, have not any luck getting to drop for you. Now, I digress and I want to move on to a more important topic on this video, and that's rewards in general. Within the game, we are struggling a lot with regards to an incentive to actually play. Those of us on the end game, there's literally no rewards that are good, except maybe a greater shard here and there. We have the newest trial Crown of Keldgon that came out, not available on the previous server, but you queue into that and you can go and you can complete it, and it's quite a bit of a challenge. But once you do so, what do you get? A few refinement points and the same old loot you get across all of the other dungeons. Each one of these has the same premium loot table where you can go and pick up your said upgrade tokens. You have very low chances to get your mounts, companions, stones of health, bags, all those. They're all across all dungeons the exact same. So at this point, we have a standardized loot table for every single piece of content, which in my opinion leads to a feeling of lackluster. What's going to be the difference if I complete Cradle of the Death God versus Assault on Svargborg? Nothing. Same loot table. Of course, there are a few exceptions here and there, like for running Tower of the Mad Mage, you might get your weapons, you might get your Halaster's Blast Scepter set, and same with Zariel's Challenge, it has a unique set to it, but there was nothing added to our Crown of Keldgon. Sure, sure, new mythic weapons that aren't even good, but that aside, there's nothing really to chase for in those dungeons that are going to lead to any character progression or in terms of even cosmetics either. Now, there are, of course, 1 or 2 dungeons that do have some cosmetic items that you can go after, but many players won't even know of them, and so I believe those items, those unique items in each dungeon, trial, or skirmish should be clearly shown down below, and then clearly shown whether you've received it or not by like a check marker. And then either you'd have the ability to reclaim that indefinitely, or you'd have the ability to farm it out again. And of course, all of these having streak breakers. Nobody likes to have a chance next to something and not know how long it's going to take them for them to actually obtain it. They can have a chance of, let's say, 1% drop rate or even less than that. But you need to have beside it, how many times am I going to have to run this thing to guaranteed get this thing, or I'm not going to bother. It will just feel like a waste of my time if I think that people have only got it after, let's say, 1,000 runs. That's ridiculous. So in my opinion, what needs to be done with regards to the reward system within Neverwinter is that each of these party content, these dungeons, these skirmishes, or these trials, they all need to drop their own unique reward. For example, you'd have your Master of the Hunt, and it could, let's say, drop on 1%, 2% drop chance an epic wolf mount and an epic wolf companion. And when you click on, let's say, the skirmish, you could see the rewards, you could see the drop rates, and you'd have a streak breaker next to it. For example, run Master of the Hunt 100 times and you'll have a guaranteed drop of, let's say, your epic wolf companion. Something unique to each of these, clearly shown down here what rewards you can chase after. You complete that X amount of times, you get that reward, you could be lucky and get it earlier, and then you can see exactly how many times you've run the dungeon, and then you could add on to that even further. Have something like we had with PvP, you'd have your leaderboards, and whoever complete, let's say, that dungeon that week the fastest would get a certain reward, whichever party completed it the fastest, and that would incentivize endgame players to, let's say, compete against each other. You would see the party and then the party's names of who completed it fastest that week. Maybe this should be delayed to a month, who knows, and then let's say you would rotate between 5 different dungeons, skirmishes, and trials of which ones you'd want to complete the fastest, and then by completing it the fastest and getting, let's say, the top 3, then you'd essentially get certain rewards every week or month, depending on what time limit you want to put on that. And the rewards would be something valuable, like a coalescent ward, or, you know, a legendary Pacific mount, or a bunch of upgrade tokens, or some Reaper marks, something that's valuable and sought after in the game. And since it's a leaderboard system, only a few people will be getting those rewards, so you're not really throwing off the balance with regards to the entire game. And that would at least then give a reason for endgame players to go back and run particular content and see how well they can complete it in its current state. You could even have the requirement as those leaderboards to run with one random player. So you could only queue, let's say, this dungeon with only 4 pre-made people, and then you'd have to queue it publicly. And once you go and complete that, it gets added to the leaderboard list. And that's then ranked on your leaderboard of the top party who carried other people through said dungeon. And that would aid in the random queues. So right now we do have the Reaper's Challenge, and that was a very good addition to Neverwinter as a whole for endgame players. It gives us a reason to run a random dungeon with a random set of challenge conditions. For a Reaper mark, we spend in a store for our choice of rewards, and right now the main reward people would buy is greater shards. And so with that system in mind, that could be in effect for essentially all dungeons. For example, you could have Spellplay Caverns, and you could go and set it on hardcore mode, and then have an increased drop rate of the specific rewards in that dungeon, along with, let's say, some unique rewards for running it on that challenge. For example, we have that now with Vault of Stars. You queue up to your hardcore mode and you essentially get your mini bosses throughout the dungeon. You can get your chance at then getting your Band of Air, which is a crazy good ring within endgame right now, and that's a big hard grind. Really, it needs to have streak breakers implemented in that to make it more fair, because people are running it for hundreds of runs and not even getting the reagent they need for their ring, which is just nuts. On top of that, we also have a reduced item level method you can run your dungeon on, and that could give different rewards and so on. You could have multiple different options down here that you could select and run your dungeon under even harsher conditions to essentially obtain better and better rewards. For example, run a Pacific dungeon on hardcore mode, run that 50 times and guaranteed get a coalescent ward. That's just an example. There's so many different things they could do, and all of these shouldn't take too much work. You just need to implement a few more match options here, implement your specific rewards for each dungeon, just tie something to a specific dungeon. For example, Lair the Mad Mage, you could have your Trobriand construct companion linked to that specific dungeon, run it a certain amount of times and you get that reward, and it's just listed down here. Everybody can see it and you can see your progress. You have, let's say, 50 out of 60 runs until you get your reward. And overall, the community manager has said her interest in hearing our thoughts and opinions with regards to rewards, and would like to make a stream upcoming in the future, possibly in 2 weeks or so, to talk about all of these rewards. And we are in a fortunate position now that they actually have a developer who is dedicated to working on these rewards in the game. So hopefully we can get some good changes going on. We can get some good incentives to actually run certain content for some nice rewards, for some good rewards to help either character progression, help with cosmetics on your characters, and ultimately give us players the sense of feeling rewarded when we complete content, rather than just we're doing it for our rough Astro Diamonds every day and that's about it. Otherwise, save your keys for Dungeon Delvers and then go and spam out a bunch of dungeons and skirmishes and hope you get lucky getting your unbind tokens, upgrade tokens, etc. Again, hopefully this has been somewhat insightful, you guys, and I didn't go on too long. And so I'd like to give a massive thank you to all of my channel members for helping me keep my channel going. And if I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.